It's an absolute uh, pleasure to be on with my son tonight. I did a little video earlier, and I shared a little bit about my trials of not having my dad at 12, and a really painful moment for me, to be honest. Having they put a tie on for the first time, and most of my ties were clip-on ties, the real easy ones. But this time, it was an event that I had to throw on the tie, and it was an athletic event, and I felt embarrassed that I didn't know how to put it on, so I didn't ask anybody how to do it. So I sat in the bathroom and pretty much cried around how to do it until I learned how to do it. But I wanted to share that moment because I think there's some times in life where you experience those hardships, those difficulties, but those moments kind of make you, or they can break you. And I think it was a moment in my life that made me, because I was determined to fight, and I was determined to be a man, and I was determined that when I had a child, that I would always be there for him and show him those little things: how to shave, how to tie a tie, how to open a door or for his girlfriend, how to be a gentleman, all those things, how to protect your family, all of that stuff. Don't know how successful I was in all those things, but I'm hopeful. I'm hoping that I was successful, but you're going to let us know that tonight. So I think sometimes in life, the man is not ready for the moment, and also the moment is not ready for the man. But there's a time in history where the moment is right and the man is right. And since I have you on here tonight, I thought it would be an interesting conversation, a provocative discussion on that topic, the man and the moment. And so first of all, I want to say to you, just as a man, because you graduated from college this year, you got a job, praise the Lord. you got a job, you're gainfully employed, and you're just an incredible human being, man. And I want to say how proud I am of you and the man that you are and the man that you are becoming. A father couldn't ask for a better son, and so I'm really grateful. I ain't gonna make you cry on the live.
You know what I'm saying? Don't bring people on here, with the tears. You know what I'm saying? Keep it light. I love you too, Dad.
But I thought for all of us on here, and for everyone who had moments of struggle, right, and moments of hardship, and moments where you felt like nobody was there, I thought it'd be an interesting conversation for me and you to have. And get your perspective, insight, and your questions that you would have of me. Maybe something that you always wanted to ask me that you never did. And so I'm looking forward to that conversation. And so while you're logging on, I am Michael Phillips. This is my son, Michael Phillips. You can follow us both. You can follow me at Pastor Michael Phillips on Instagram and on Facebook, or subscribe to my YouTube channel. And then my son, you got to tell everybody where to follow you at.
Yeah, you can follow me at _Ford Phillips on Instagram.
There you go.
That's where I be. I don't really use Facebook, but
you ain't got
the same name.
You ain't got to tell us that you're young and I'm old. You ain't got to do that. You ain't got to do that.
No, that's all. That's where I be. That's
So
all.
for discussion tonight, if you're watching, if you're on, and if you have questions and you want us to answer some of those, we would love to hear from you. So just go ahead and post them, and we'll try to get to some of your questions at the end. I got a question for you. Let's kick this off.
Okay.
Was I a good dad?
No, it's like not. If I came on here, absolutely not. No, I think the answer is what everybody would expect, is that you were an incredible dad. I mean, everything that you listed out that I was able to do, whether it's my collegiate pursuits, my professional pursuits, my character, anything that I became, I can't become what I couldn't see. So, people give me a lot of credit for the things that I've done in my life that I've never really felt like I owned, because for me, there were so many great things that were just normalized already. You know, I grew up with a dad that was leading a congregation. I grew up with a dad that was feeding the community. I grew up with a dad that had books in the background of his Zoom live, you know, so I knew what it was like to read. I knew what it was like to dress well. I knew what it was like to be ambitious. These were things that were just automatically in my environment, and I absorbed them. So my personality was born out of that environment. So it was easy for me to become everything that I have or do everything that I do and anything else that I will do in the future down the line. It's already been laid before me as an example. And I think that that's one of the most blessed things that you can have is the man standing in front of you to teach you how to do everything. So, you know, if I were to return the compliments, is that I am but your labor. That's all I am. It's just that what you have produced, you know, out of your desire to take your situation and make sure that it doesn't continue down from generation to generation. And you put that work in and you flip that switch. And so now I have the gift that you've given me, and the gift that I hope to give my kids, you know, down the line. So I would say that you've done an excellent job. And you know, if there's one thing that I would take credit for, you know, ladies and gentlemen, he taught me how to tie a tie, but you know, I taught this man how to dress. They don't say that, you know, they don't say that. They don't let people know that. You know what I'm saying? But y'all see the Jays on Sunday,
Get
how
out
the
of
burgundy match, that's me. That's me.
Get out of here.
he kind of gave you my style. I can't
That's right.
lie on
That's right.
that
That's right. No, man. I
But
listen. That's great
go
to
ahead, go
hear.
ahead.
It's hard to be what you can't see. And for me, my dad down at 12, I did get to see him be a great man. I did get to see him love his family and provide for his
Mhm.
family. Um, I didn't get to see his struggles.
Mhm.
I was too young, and I didn't get to see how he handled different types of adversity because I was too young. But a fear of mine was that I wasn't going to be a good dad.
Mm.
Um, that fear was put in me because I really didn't have enough time to develop
Mhm.
as a young man, to see the responsibilities of fatherhood, the stuff that a kid normally wouldn't see, but maybe a teenager would notice. I didn't get to see that. And kudos to my mother, your grandmother, who kind of just held it down in
Mhm.
such a phenomenal way. She's just an incredible woman, and you know, helped me to be shaped into the man that I am. But that being said, I remember when you were born. I held
Mm.
it's one of my favorite pictures of you, and I'm
Yeah.
holding you in our kitchen. And I had just bought our first home, and you were like two, and I'm holding. I had you dressed all, you know, fitted. You were fitted always.
Fitted at two, at
At
age
two.
two. No knowledge of the
Right.
fact.
And I was holding. I was on my way to work, and I had you on my arms, and it's one of my favorite pictures of you. And that picture is really uh, a, uh, a shadow of how important you were to me, and how you also helped shape me. Because when I
Mm.
had you, I said to myself, I got to get my stuff together.
Yes,
Like,
sir.
I got to get my stuff together so that I wasn't transmitting my pain and my
Mm.
fear and my inadequacies onto you. Um,
Mm.
and I wanted to make sure that didn't happen. So it is a refreshing thing to hear you say things that you said about me of being a dad. Let me ask you this: were there ever any questions you wanted to ask me that maybe you were too young to ask, and now that you are, you know, 1 foot into full blown adulthood
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
and pretty much grown, uh, what do you want to ask me?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I already had a question in mind that just hearing off of what you were talking about is, you know, how you talked about how you had me and that kind of revved you up to prepare yourself for a moment that, you know, you weren't necessarily ready for, but you had to get ready for. And you also just talked about this whole, you know, life spent with the weight of this pain of having not had that experience with your own dad, you know what I'm saying, tying your tie by yourself. And I'm sure there were just umpteenth other scenarios where you had that same feeling. What I would want to know is, you know, has the, you know, 23 years of parenting given you any type of healing in a way from that pain that you experienced? And, you know, how would you describe that to others? You know, was there a fulfillment that surprised you in being a parent? And in that same vein, just anything else that you personally received from being a parent that you didn't even expect to receive when you were facing that fear of that moment in the beginning?
Wow, that's a loaded question. It is. It is. Um, yeah, man. You know, when there were multiple times where um, I experienced as a parent healing through that process, knowing I wasn't jacking y'all up, you know, knowing I wasn't
Yeah.
breaking you, knowing that you were going to be okay. And there were multiple times throughout your life, your sister's life, where I had those moments. You know, I'll never forget a dream of mine as a kid. My mother always played the Macy Day Parade on Thanksgiving. I was born on Thanksgiving, born on her birthday. So, you know, Thanksgiving to me is always a special time because, you know, that's when I was born. And I was also born on my mom's birthday, which is like a gift to her, right? And so, but she would always play the Macy's Day Parade. And as a kid, I always wanted to go. You know, I always wanted to be there. I always wanted to see Snoopy coming down, you know, Broadway, the big Snoopy balloon and all that. And there was a time where I got to the point in my life where we were blessed enough that I could take you guys. And I think I was more of a kid that day than you and your sister were when we were in New York watching the Macy's Day Parade. And I'm seeing Snoopy come down Broadway. And for me, that was a healing moment. That was a moment where my childhood dreams were coming true through my parenting and being able to provide that moment for you guys. Y'all was over there eating eggs and bacon and pancakes. I'm flipping out over Snoopy coming down. y'all like, yeah, whatever, it's all good.
That's Snoopy, right?
And I'm flipping out. But there were moments like that time and time again when you got to middle school and you were such an intelligent young man, an articulate young man, and you knew what you wanted and you worked hard and you went after what you wanted to go after and you hit pretty much every mark, whatever you set your mind to do. When you played soccer most of your life, most people don't know that. And then you decided to play basketball. And then I drove you to North Carolina, the 5-star basketball camp to, you know, kind of inundate you to that culture. And you still made the team. You still made varsity, even though you started late. Like you've always had that work ethic. Seeing that, seeing you fight for what you want, go after what you want, were healing moments to me because it was saying that I was doing something right. And I wasn't, you know, breaking you guys and I wasn't causing you traumatic harm. And those were my worries. And so there's been a lot of healing. One of the greatest moments, I've had so many with you, but one of the greatest moments was when you was awarded the opportunity to give the commencement address for the class of 2020 during a pandemic, and you rocked it out right in front of our house. And seeing that and seeing you step into that moment, great pride, and a lot of healing because I knew that I changed the generation through you. That's what parenting is all about. At least in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion, should be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's been a joy. Now I get to sit back and kick it with you and hang out and talk about politics and sports and all types of stuff that normally we wouldn't have been able to really talk about on that level. But now I got to keep up with you. I got to read. Listen.
Listen, bro, it's quarantine. That's all we do is read now. Okay, all these books we've read them.
That's it.
No, but if I could interject, I think I wanted to go back to even that small joke you made about us just kind of like aloofly paying attention to the parade, and then also, you know, now having reached all these achievements, because I think, you know, it's a beautiful thing when your kids are normalized to the things that you weren't normalized to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of times you get the parental trope that it's like, oh, these kids are so ungrateful. You know what I'm saying? Back in our day, we had this, we had that. And there's wisdom to that, but I also think there's often missed joy in recognizing how beautiful that this resource, this joy, this happiness is so much present in your child's life that they could even be in the vicinity of risking taking it for granted, you know?
Yeah.
I think there's like, that's just something to hold on to, you know, as a parent, and something that I would look forward to when, you know, I give my kids something that, you know, maybe I even thought about doing that I couldn't do. And it's like, it gets better and better and better. It's like, wow, these kids they just take that for granted. Isn't that amazing? You know what I'm saying? And you don't have to sacrifice teaching them gratefulness, but it's just something to take with you as like a mark of like, no, this is progress. This is what we want. You know, we don't take, you know, no for an answer. We can go after our dreams. We can do this. You know what I'm saying? This is ours to take. So I just wanted to like interject on that point because I thought it was a very prescient point. Another question I wanted to ask you, because I think this was such a brilliant job done by you guys as parents, is the balance between having dreams for your kids, right?
Yeah.
But also not forcing your dreams onto your kids.
Oh yeah.
I think is a very nuanced line to draw. So I think what would be important for the people to hear is, how do you effectively push your kids beyond yourself, but make sure that you recognize what their gifts are and not reinforce what's just your dream and not necessarily a dream for them?
Let me tell you something. You hitting it right now. Yeah, listen. Woo, where do I start with this one? So let's just take it to sports, right? You know, I was an athlete,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
you know, when you were very small, I had you in the basketball, football. You had a basketball in your hand the moment you took them out. I think day after delivery, I put a ball in your hand like, basketball. Let's go. Like I was trying to send you to the league, sir. That's what I
Yes,
was doing.
sir.
And you know, but it would have been a travesty to put a ball in your hand saying that you were going to be 6'7" when you were 7'2" in your mind. See, it would have been a bad thing for me to try to impose my dream on you, because you're not me. There's only one Michael Jonathan Phillips walking this earth. And so when you were little and you played ball for a little while, you were such a natural athlete. You had that natural ability and skill. You fell in love with soccer. I mean, you like cold hard fell in love with soccer. And I was hot. I was so mad. I was so hot. Now listen, at the time, I didn't know that soccer was was the largest sport in the world. I didn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I didn't have that understanding of the sport, and all I thought was soccer. You know, I I grew up as a city kid. Okay, I learned how to dunk on a basketball crate.
Yeah.
And so I went, soccer? What are you talking about? But you loved it. I mean, you just cold heart loved it. And I'll never forget the day sitting on the edge of the bed talking to myself saying, this boy loves soccer. Now, the way that we as parents were able to get you guys to dream beyond yourselves was exposure. So whatever it was you were interested in, we exposed it to you at the highest level, to the best of our ability. So you love soccer, okay? we going to see the World Cup. We're going to show you who all the best soccer players in the world. We're going to try to get you into the best travel leagues and coaches and all those things. That's the sacrifice your mother and I made, regardless of what you were interested in. We tried our very best to get you exposed to more, exposed to more, whether it was running you up to New York just to see the lights and just to see the buildings, just to see something that grand. Whatever it is that we tried to do, we wanted to expose you to more so that you can see that there is more. And then when we saw your innate gifts, we nurtured them. We nurtured them from young. You always was interested in books. You always were interested in mindful things, and so we nurtured that. And whenever we saw that there was something, putting that in danger, we got you away from it as fast as possible. We were very super protective over your purpose and your gifts and your talents. That's what we weren't super protective or adamant about read this book or do your work. We never did that. It was the culture and environment we created, which you alluded to earlier. That was just normal. Books were normal in our home. It's not a far-fetched fantasy for you to come down and see me reading in my office.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
So it was just normal. And I think it's hard for a parent to tell a kid to do something that they never see you do. And so we exposed you to as much as we could possibly expose you to that would help cultivate your gifts and your dreams. Whether it was museums, any type of historical landmarks, we were just trying to expose you as much as possible. And let me tell you that how much of a sacrifice it is, because your mother will tell you, I hate to drive. I hate it more than 3 hours.
Woo! Parenthood was hard for you.
It ain't the kid no more. I used to could do it, but not no more. So whenever we would take road trips or do the stuff that we did, it was a sacrifice to do it because we wanted you guys to be exposed to whatever would feed your gifts and your talents. And that's how we were able to do it without imposing on you mandates, these parental mandates that, says you better do this, or it wasn't, it was you, it was just quietly cultivating cultivating your gifts through an atmosphere that would expose you to those things that would help feed your gifts. That's what that was. Yeah, man.
No, that's absolutely awesome. And I think it's interesting and brilliant in a way because it almost comes across as like a reverse psychology of sorts where, the intuition is that the mandates would get the kid to where he needs to go. But if you're just constantly setting that example, it's almost like the kid thinks that it's his idea, right? Like, it's like, oh, I just want to be great. And then somebody asks you, it's just like, why do you want to be great? I was like, because.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Why do you want to go to college? It's college. What do you mean?
Right.
And so it does two things. One, it empowers the child to kind of be independent by themselves, make their choices, have their initiatives, while making sure those initiatives are in fact healthy and sending them somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think the second thing it does is it deconstructs the relationship between parent and child from one of, domineering to simply, relationships of respect. I think one of which in turn helps you to be able to listen to the parent because you want to. You go to them because you want advice, you want mentorship, that there's somebody you can trust, that there's somebody that they have your best interest at heart. So you're gonna want to have that relationship with them. I think one of the funniest things is, and I don't know if I've talked to you about this a lot, but and for people watching, like me and my dad talk pretty much like we're brothers. Yep. We talk like it's just, two dudes talking, hitting it up, like whatever. And so when I was on campus a lot, I pick up the phone, it's my dad calling me like, yo, that was good. A word? That's wild. Okay, that's what's up. Yeah. All right, man. Listen, I gotta go, cuz. I'll catch you later, dog. All right, bet. And they'd be like, "Oh, who you was talking to?" I'm like, "My dad." They're like, your dad?" Like, you talk to your dad like that? And again, with the normalization, I'm just like, yeah. Why? How do you talk to your dad? Because some people, they got to be like, oh, yes, sir, no, sir. Thank you very much. It's like there's no issues with that, but if there's not relationship underneath it, it's pointless. It's hollow. And so I think that was, a really smart move by you guys that you made.
You got to pick your battles, man. You got to you got to pick your battles. We would much rather have you guys come talk with us about whatever it is you're dealing with than try to figure it out on your own. It sounds like we've been able to create that atmosphere and environment for you guys.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, totally. What's another question you got for me? Come on.
Yeah, no, because I had one more. So I mean, just talking about all these parental moments, right? And clearly operating with a lot of wisdom in all these different areas. And that's even more profound when you recognize that you didn't have the long-term example that I've been able to have, to just have a dad, all the way through and through. And we're talking about, when the man meets the woman, when the woman meets the man. I would say parenthood can be described as just a series of moments meeting unprepared men.
Say that.
If you could describe the parenthood, like, and somebody asks you, that's what it is in a nutshell, right?
Yeah.
And so I think we would always love in life to have moments that we're prepared for. But I think if you're anybody, regardless of where you are in stature and accomplishment, you've had some moment where you weren't ready, especially if you're a parent. So if you could talk to me about maybe the wisdom you've gained in what to do when you come across a moment that you're not ready for. How do you improvise? How do you keep your head? How do you adapt? And just talk a little bit more about that.
So you don't have to be perfect,
Mm-hmm.
but you do have to be present.
Mm.
Each moment requires your presence.
Mm.
If you're not there, you miss the moment, regardless if you're ready or not. And I didn't want to miss moments that I would never get back. That's why I drove you to school every day. You were 2 years old. You were not 2. You were 1, just before 1. You started walking early, like 10 months, something crazy. And then you had figured out how to get out your crib, which I still don't understand to this day. But you hated sleeping alone, and you figured out how to get out of your crib, and you would crawl into our room. Literally, you would crawl into our room. And we had baby gates everywhere, but you knew how to get that slide down off the crib. And you would tumble your head over the crib, and I would hear a thud, doop. And I'm like, oh, there's Mike. And you would crawl into the room, and then I would sit with you most nights until you fell asleep, and I put you back in crib. But I was working 14 hours a day, killing myself trying to provide for you guys. And your mother called me one day and said, Mike's walking. And I missed it. I missed it. And little stuff like that, I said to myself, I ain't never missing another moment again. And so I decided that I'm going to figure out how to drive you guys to school every day. If whatever it costs me, I don't want to miss the moments that are important. And I think when you come into any situation, any opportunity, you're not always going to be ready, but you do have to be present. I can get ready going. I can get ready on the fly. Now, obviously preparation is a beautiful thing. It's a wonderful thing. But there are some times in life where you're just not ready for the moment, but the moment requires your presence. Parenting is like that. Parenting requires your presence. Okay. If I chose, because of my inadequacies, not to be there for you, that's just selfish. You don't know what I don't have. As a child, you don't know what I don't have.
Absolutely.
And you don't care. All you care about is, where's my father?
Right.
Okay. And so we got to stop letting these excuses about what we don't have stop us from being present. Like when guys say, I don't know how to be a husband. Well, they don't teach you. There ain't no husband school. Ain't no
Right.
husband school.
No husband degree. No, sir.
No, doing it is school. You have to be in it. You have to be present in the moment. That's how you learn.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be there. I wanted to be present. I wanted to pick you up from school. I wanted to hear about your day. I wanted to know what was going on with you. I wanted to know, do you like that girl over there? You like what's going on there. I wanted to be there. I wanted to make sure that you knew I was there.
Yeah.
And that I would always be there. No matter what, no matter if you messed up or if you got it wrong. And I always would say to you, like, look, especially when you got a little older and you got into high school, I don't care what you did. I don't care what's going on. You need to tell me what's happening.
Man.
I can help you. And that's where it was, man. You don't have to be perfect. You need to be present. And I think so many people are waiting for that perfect qualification of being something before they do something. And I think that as a parent, it's not much that you can prepare you for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not a whole lot. I mean, you can read, you can do all that. It's a lot of wisdom. You can talk to other people, but until it's your child crying in the middle of the night, until it's your child trying to learn how to ride the bike, until it's your child talking about, can I borrow the keys to the car? Listen.
You had to do the voice drop.
Because that's a shocker. Like, what? You want the keys? What you talking about? And all that stuff. You have to be present, and you have to be, you know what? You have to be present in the moment to experience it as a moment. And only after the moment has passed can you reflect on it with the wisdom of hindsight and say, now that was a moment. That's how I can see you, crawling into the room. That's how I can see you saying, Dad, I love soccer. That's how I can see you when you came to me in your freshman year going into your sophomore year saying, Dad, I think I want to hoop. And me trying to figure out, oh, God, how I'm going to do that now? It's kind of late in the game. I got to get acclimated to the culture of basketball. Because those were moments, defining moments to me as a parent of how I was going to be able to be there for you. And the moment where you got your acceptance letter from Mark Zuckerberg on the video mail saying you got into Harvard, and you running around the house like you lost your mind. Defining moments, man. Had I been wrestling with my inadequacy and my fears of being a bad dad, and if I would have given into that, then I would have fulfilled that self-fulfilling prophecy of becoming a bad father because I was afraid to be a good one.
Ooh, ladies and gentlemen, that's why he's the pastor of Kingdom Life Church. You understand how he pulled that together just so eloquently. He played so beautifully, don't you agree? No, that's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant response. And I think that it's a perfect allegory to pretty much any important moment in any individual's life. Is I think that, and this is something I've just been reflecting on in my life too, is that the number one moment killer is that false humility that comes from looking at your inadequacies.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you can, and you think, it's what's sad about it is that people often find it to be a noble thing. It's like, oh, I have to address my shortcomings. It's like, oh man, I'm not that smart. I'm not that educated. I'm not this, that, and the third. And just slowly but surely, you're actually just killing the moment. And what makes it selfish is that it was never, any important moment in your life is never really about you.
No.
So if for example, like my speech, for I could have said there's umpteenth brilliant kids at Harvard. There's hundreds that submit speeches. They all have something to say. I could have easily said, I've been dealing with my own thing. I was abroad. I'm not really that important of an individual. Somebody else can take it. But I knew my gift is speaking.
Yeah.
And I knew I could deliver something that was prescient for the moment, that maybe could help somebody open their eyes up to say that this experience is a lot deeper than what we're treating it to be.
Yeah.
And if I had given into that, there would be no speech. And I might still be in my kind of hubristic humbleness of being like, I just didn't want to be anybody. No, bro, you needed to get on stage because somebody needed your gift. It was your gift.
Yeah.
It's not really about you. And I think, that's just something I've been reflecting on. I think something that's been present in your life, during this time as well.
Fear provides just as much evidence as faith does.
Mm.
And you have to take a step back and look at, okay, what do you really believe? Because doubt cannot be created without a belief.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why we doubt is because we believe some evidence that they say fear is false evidence that appears real, but I want to push back on that. It's real evidence because it comes from a place of pain. It comes from a place of pain avoidance. It comes from a place of being so inundated with your inadequacies and the little boy. Let's just keep it here. The little boy on the inside of you who is crying because of what has been taken from him, okay, and angry with the world because of what has been taken from him, and angry with God because of what has been taken from him. All that is evidence. My dad did die, okay? I did make bad decisions after that. I did have to figure out how to, go through puberty, go through all of the masculinity phases of becoming a man without a man to look to. All that happened. That was real. Okay. Yes, but the gifts that God put inside of me, the purpose that God put inside of me, that was real too. And so wherever you're looking at, it shouldn't be me, or I'm not good enough, or if they only knew, who I really was, they wouldn't have picked me. That's hogwash, foolishness. Stop all that nonsense. Stop all that foolishness, because you have enough evidence on the positive side that you need to step into the moment. Just as much evidence you have on the negative side. And it comes down to, where are you going to invest your belief? I chose to invest my belief that I could be a good dad, okay, that I could raise my son, that I could raise my family without breaking them, without scarring them, without traumatizing them, and that I could do it, and I did it, and I love doing it, and one of my greatest joys now is sitting back watching you guys do your thing and helping you whenever I can, if I need to, but I don't have to do it a lot, because y'all are doing y'all thing. And, for everybody that's listening and watching and struggling with some of those inadequacies and struggling with some of those fears of whether you're parenting or whether you are a single mom. My mother was a single mother at 35, widowed, 35 years old, okay, with 3 kids, really 4 if you include my older brother. And she held it down. To this day, I don't know how my mother did what she did to this day. but she did it. And I know it's hard and I know it's rough, but you have enough evidence. You have enough evidence. Whoever is listening to me right now, I'm sorry, I'm kicking into my spiritual side.
Come on.
You have enough evidence. Your history is proof. Your history is proof that you can make it. Your history is proof that you're going to be all right. Your history is proof that you can mother your children and see that they go beyond anything that you ever possibly imagined, and they can go have brighter pathways and futures than you ever possess. Your history is proof because you keep going and you keep trekking and you keep believing and you keep hoping. So don't give up on that. You just be present in the moment, the moment, and know that it's not about you. It's not about. I had an opportunity. I was starting to get a little bit of notice and a little bit of acclaim to my name. And I was preaching a lot, and I had an opportunity to go on tour in Europe, and it probably would have blew me up. To be quite honest, I'm not gonna lie. It would have did some good, probably more than likely. But I never forget looking at your sister and you and having to make a decision. Should I go or should I stay? Now I needed to go because y'all are expensive. Y'all are expensive. And I was like, listen, I got to work. I got to pay these bills. I got to pay the
Can't deny it.
But I didn't go. I didn't go. And the reason I didn't go, even though I know that's a moment I'll never get back, you also were moments I would never get back. You see, there's always evidence on both sides. It's where will I invest my belief? And at that time, I really felt it was important to stay. I didn't choose not to go because I love to preach the word of God. I love it. Okay. It wasn't because I felt inadequate. It wasn't because I felt out of place because of the marquee and the individuals that were going to be there. I felt it was important to remain where my kids were. That you guys were at such critical stages of development that if I was gone for 3 months or 4 months or 6 months on the road like that, I don't know what would have happened. I felt it that deep. I mean, really that deep. That I decided to stay.
Wow.
And I'm glad I did it. Because you guys are moments too. You guys are moments too.
No, 100%. No, I just think it's beautiful that you were able to make that decision. And now, while ostensibly it cost you something, you're now here with 2 kids that are healthy and that are grown, and now with your purposes burgeoning and coming out into the world. And so I think it just points to the fact that, like, when you make those decisions on principle, it pays off at the end of the day. In a lack of regret that is just more is deeper than what you would have experienced beforehand. I also just looked at the fact that my laptop is on 4%, and I don't want it to die real quick. So what I'm gonna do, my church people, is I'm gonna find my charger.
While he's finding his charger, here's what I want to come back. If you have a question, if this conversation has been helpful to you, and you got a question, I would love to answer your question. And when Mike gets back, if you got a question for him, maybe you want a young man's perspective for your young person, we would love to answer some of your questions. So if you're watching right now and you have a question, go ahead and throw it in there, and hopefully I can see it in chat or in the comment section, and I would love to answer your question. If you're on YouTube and you're watching on YouTube, I won't be able to see it, but if you're on, I can hear you. If you're on Facebook, I can certainly do it. So here's a question. Yeah, here's a question right now. You said, okay, somebody's asking, how did your spiritual fathers help impact you being a natural father? Um, I didn't have much help from that aspect. Um, I didn't have much help from that aspect. So the question was, how did my spiritual father help me being a natural father? I didn't have any help like that. I didn't get a spiritual father until late in my life. So I didn't have a lot of help. I relied on my natural dad, who was my spiritual dad. My natural dad was a pastor. And I relied solely on what I saw. And I saw my dad go to work every day. I did see that. I saw him work hard. I saw him, fight and scratch to get up and provide for his family. I saw how he treated my mom. Uh, he hugged and kissed her all the time. And so I'm a hugger to this day. I'm an affectionate person to this day because of what I saw with my dad. So that was helpful to me. There was another question here. Let me see. I can't find it now.
I'm back. I don't know if you can see me.
No, I can see you.
I'm just making sure. Answer the questions. Yeah.
No, I got you. I just wanted to answer their question because somebody.
Absolutely.
So we're getting close. We've got about 10 minutes left, and if you do have questions from me or from Mike, go ahead and throw it into the comment. It'll pop up for us. We would love to answer it. Do you have a final question for me, man? Before they chime in.
So to wrap up what we were talking about, I think we were getting into some really good conversations about, being recognizing that the evidence is real either way.
Yeah.
Because I think that people often diagnose false fear with false positivity as well. And that can go in an opposite direction. That might lead you to take a leap that isn't, particularly good for you right now. For example, that maybe would have led you to Europe, you know what I'm saying? But that would have caused issues in your life. So I think the final question I would ask is, what is your strategy for remaining centered in purpose, not leaning towards fear, not leading towards false positivity, but constantly moving forward for the people that are relying on your gift? How do you maintain that center? How do you pick yourself up during the times when you feel like all the evidence is coming in for you to want to quit, or somebody's pushing you in a direction that's actually not for you? How do you stay focused on that center?
Wow, you are hitting home runs with these questions. You really are. So 2012, I went through a very dark period of that question. I started thinking about quitting and giving up on everything that God put on the inside of me. It was getting real hard to stay the course. Pastoring is such a selfless event. And I really didn't know how to deal with the tension, of that reality, of the purpose that I have and the problems that are connected to that purpose. Right? And along with that, it's the how do I stay, true to where I'm being called to, that true north, and not give into the fears and the worries and the concerns. And so in 2012, I'll never forget it, I had knelt down to pray, and the Lord said to me, Michael, I want you to have the courage to allow things to change. The way that you stay connected to your purpose is to understand that purpose is not static. It's dynamic. Your purpose is not, it's not still. And so you'll get locked into one category of what you can do that's related to your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Start believing that that's it because you're that thing. So people call me pastor. That's what I
Right.
do. It's not who I
Not
am.
who you are. Mm-hmm.
And you start getting locked into that mode of that's who you are. It's like when people fail, they think they are a failure. You're not a failure, you just
Mm.
failed.
Mm.
Your purpose is dynamic. It's going to
Yep.
move, it's going to grow, it's going to evolve. And when we choose not to evolve, we will substitute, okay, for evolution
Mm.
by not adapting
Mm.
and holding on to what we know. And when that pressure becomes so hard, you go, okay, well, I'm just going to quit. I'm just going to walk away.
Mm-hmm.
Don't quit. Evolve.
Come on.
Adapt.
Come on.
Grow. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I had to do. Um, there was things that I was called to do, assignments that I had given up on, that I laid down for the sake of, right?
Yeah.
For the sake of, I'm just going to be a good pastor. I'm just going to, I'm just going to love on these people. I'm a
Yeah.
good father. I'm a good husband. I'm just going to settle here. I'm going to rest
Mm-hmm.
here. But my purpose was pulling me,
Yeah.
okay, to
Yeah.
dimensions that I'm called to.
Yeah.
And the way that you stay true to that is to adapt and not to give in
Mm.
pressure of remaining where you are, because purpose is always dynamic. It's not static.
Mm.
And your purpose is not in competition with anybody either. It's a compliment
Mm-hmm.
to whoever or whatever strata you're going to be in, or whoever your contemporaries are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why God came to me and said, have the courage to let things change. And everything did change. And I still, for about 4 years, I went through that
Yeah.
fluctuation of, I'm
Yeah.
out. I don't know what to do. I'm going to give up. I'm going to quit. But I evolved. I
Yeah.
adapted. I grew through that
Mm-hmm.
process. And now I'm embracing much bigger things and larger things.
Yeah.
That was always a part of my purpose, right?
Right.
And so the man wasn't quite ready for the moment, and the moment wasn't quite ready for the man.
Yeah.
There comes a time in history where the man is ready and the moment is right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm about to step into that. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I encourage you the way that I do, because you're maturing, you're evolving, you're growing, and there are going
Yeah.
to be moments in your life where you're going to feel like, I'm not ready, I'm not inadequate. Just be present,
Mm.
be present, because those moments are going to cause you to grow. It's going to
Yeah.
cause you to be built up. It's going to cause you to become stronger.
Yeah.
And it's okay to know what your weaknesses are. That's,
Yeah.
you want to know.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
that's fine. So that you can build around you and put around you the things that you need to keep developing and to keep growing.
Mm-hmm.
So we got some questions. I want to jump off and I want to answer some
Yeah.
questions. We got 4 minutes left,
Absolutely.
and I want to find some of them for both of us. And I know someone asked a question here that I thought was very provocative.
Yeah.
Someone said when they lost their dad also at 12. I feel you. I understand. And for years, one of the struggles they had was passing away and not being able to be there for their kids. So it sounds like that was a fear. So how do you deal with the negative leftovers from losing a parent early in life so that it doesn't affect your kids? That's a great question. Um, I wanted to be healthy for my kids. It was a weird thing when I got to my late 30s, and I wanted to, I really wanted to be healthy for them so that I could be there for them, because my dad died at 42. So when I turned 42, it was like, whew,
Yeah.
I made it.
Yeah.
But the leftovers, the negative effects of losing my father, I had to do my own healing and not project that onto my kids. Okay, the pain that you refuse to transform, you will inevitably transmit, and
Yeah.
you will transmit that pain to those closest to you. I never wanted to project that pain onto my children. And so I had to carve out space for me to get the help I needed to heal and to deal with my issues so that I could be there for my kids. And I made it all about them, not about me. And that's how I didn't have any of the negative leftover effects from losing my dad, by making sure I was healthy, physically, spiritually, and emotionally for my children. My daughter's a hugger. My daughter will sit up underneath me. She's 18 years old, and she will, to this day, will sit up underneath me for hours if I let her, and I let her do it, because that's what she needs, right? Sometimes, and I was available in that way, and that's the important part of it. So, I hope that answered your question. Somebody asked, have y'all ever dance battle? Oh man!
Let me tell you something right now. This man does not want any problems.
I will dust him.
Doesn't want any problems, bro. Does he know who I am? Do you know who I am? I'm the Don.
God, man. Listen, this kid could dance. I used to could dance, but he got it now. He got the crowd. I would step back and watch him do his thing. I don't want no parts of that.
That's hilarious.
I don't want no part of that. Somebody, I got to read this question first because who wrote it? I don't know what they're going to say. Let me read this. Mike, they want to know what kept you interested in your studies, okay, and how would you get on your friends if they were not using their full potential to see the value in school, especially right now.
Okay, so how would I get on my friends? Like, how would I encourage them as well? Is that? Yeah, I'm assuming that's the question. So to the first point, how do you stay interested in your studies? I think the way to stay interested is to make sure that you are focusing on subject matter that already interests you. I think one of the benefits of quarantine is I've had this time to kind of just be still. And as you can see in the background, there's books upon books in this house. And I just take a moment to see what I'm drawn to. I think it's a false equivocation to say that people are either school people or not school people. It's really just about what interests you and is that being given to you in the moment. So you can't for only so long can you stay interested in what you're not actually interested in. The only way to do that, and I think every student will have those moments where you have to take a class you don't really like, is to have a greater end goal that you are in fact interested in. Okay, so maybe I don't necessarily want to take this advanced calculus course, but I do want this degree. And I know I want this degree because I want to do this, or at least to have the backup for that. So I think it's about actually giving yourself a purpose behind the work rather than it just being something that's handed to you and you have no stake in what you're doing it for. And I think that to the second point of the question about how you encourage, my friends. So there's two layers to that. One is I think I have surrounded myself with individuals that I know have the same type of interests and ambitions that I do. Therefore, I'm not always the one that is encouraging them. I'm often being encouraged. Yeah. There's been plenty of times where we're in the library and I've been scrolling through Twitter for several hours and my friend will tap me on the shoulder and be like, bro, do your work. And I'll be like, you know what? Yeah, you're absolutely correct.
Your circle is everything.
Yeah, your circle is everything. And I think in high school, I didn't have that as much. I had, a lot of, I went to a predominantly white school. And so, the circle of people that I had come, into, most of my friends were just interested in sport. The blacks I had were just interested in sports because they had come to the school for that. And they were my dogs, you know what I'm saying? They're my boys. We still hang, but I hadn't had that opportunity to be around people that both had the interests I did socially, so sports, music, all these other things, but also the interests I had intellectually to go to a particular arena. And so I think that there's limitations to how you can get people that just aren't aligned with you interested in what you want to pursue. So I think the best thing you can do is try to seek out, okay, get yourself aligned first. What am I interested in? Is it psychology? Is it business? Is it whatever? And then go to those places where people are fostering those gifts, and you'll naturally find friends that are in line with what you want to do, and you'll be encouraged by each other. And so that's what I would say to that question, if that answers
No,
properly.
no, that's great. So it's one more question, and, we're a little bit well, we ain't like we got to get off, but but there's one more question I think is really powerful, and I want to get it before we jump off. Somebody asks for you, Mike,
Okay.
describe what a Christian man looks like to you now.
Okay.
How do you stay focused within the culture and without?
Okay. No, that's an excellent question. Two things. One, I think that the way that you stay focused is the first thing you have to do is you have to have your own relationship with God. This is something that I've been learning myself. I grew up in church my whole life. I've always been, in services and sermons, but I haven't always had a relationship with God for me. That was something that I learned in college when I went away from my church home. And the churches in Boston, I wasn't really liking that much. And so I struggled for a minute there. I wasn't really, to be quite honest, going to church that much, just because, it just wasn't in my environment. And I think now, coming back around at a point in my life where now I feel centered about God, and knowing who God is for myself and having that relationship with God, I just make sure that that's the thing that I'm focused on. And when you realize that, you'll realize that God is not about rules. I think people think that culture is, antithetical to God because it's about restrictions that your friends don't have. But all rules are is just the revelation of like what your real person is. So if you have a close relationship with God, you're not going to want to do certain things. You're not going to want to drink. You're not going to want to do all this crazy stuff because you recognize it for what it is, which is a dead end. And so you can just have the self affirmation of being like, this is who I am. And rather than adapting your Christianness to the culture, allow that to adapt around you. All of my friends talk about the fact that, this is, for example, not talking about myself, but that I'm the life of the party. I can go into any space and have an amazing time and make sure everybody else has an amazing time. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do any drugs. I don't do most of the things that my friends do, but I'm me and I have my center. So I don't have to worry about trying to adapt myself. And people respond to that. They sense that energy. So if you're with your friends, you don't have to necessarily leave. Like sometimes I'll just be with my friends and they'll be doing things that I just don't do, and they know I don't do it, and so I just hang with them. And so I think it's just really about just being grounded in your truth and taking your truth out into the world and letting the world adapt around you. Don't try to adapt yourself to the world.
That's good right there. Let me tell you something about the smoking and the drinking and all that. I did it all.
You was on the weed, dog.
I did it all, and listen. I'm glad you didn't pick that up from me. I can tell you that right there, man. This has been such a great conversation, man. Thank you for jumping on here with me. Thank you everybody who jumped on here, and I hope that this conversation was helpful to you all. I hope it was, enlightening. I hope it was stimulating. I hope it was encouraging. And to every man, every woman on here, God be with you. If you're a parent and you're believing for great things for your kid, I'm here to tell you that it's absolutely possible. Do not give up on your seed. Don't ever give up on your seed. Cultivate it, love it, and it's going to grow. It is going to grow. And we just want to encourage you guys tonight and let you, just peek into a little conversation between me and my man right here. And I'm so proud of you, dude. You was killing it tonight. Absolutely, absolutely incredible. You got a future in talking. If none.
If there's one thing I inherited, it's the chatter. It's the chatter for sure.
Nothing else works out. All right, man. God bless y'all tonight.